Hello Flutter developers, my name is Vivek and I'm again back with another state management library tutorial. What I mean by another state management library, I have already covered GetX state management library where I have explained how to use GetX for small and large application. If you haven't watched that video, I will add a link into the description and I will add that link into the I button. So go ahead and watch that video. And now today we will cover a block. So as you can see, we have to create a series of this video because we have a multiple topics to cover here. Okay, so this will be the first part of this video. So I would suggest you to like my video, subscribe my video, so whenever whenever I come up with the new video, you will get the notification, and don't forget to hit that bell icon actually. So let's now move ahead to our topic. So first thing is, what is a block? We many developer, as a developer we already know, but as it is a part of tutorial, so I will not take much time. So a block is nothing but an architecture, or you can say the solution to separate a business logic class with the UI. So block basically stand for business logic component, which separates the logical part from the UI. And now we are going to use the Flutter block package actually. So as you can see, it is a Flutter block package which you can get from the pub.dev. So let me show you. So you can use this library to manage the state of your application. So I have already added this library in my pubspec.yaml. Go ahead and add that. Okay, so in today's video we will cover what is block, what is Cubit, Bloc Observer, Bloc Provider, and Bloc Builder. In a later video we will cover the multiple block provider, multiple block listener, Bloc Selector, Bloc Consumer, repository, and multiple repository provider, repository, everything. So what is Cubit? Okay, so Cubit is a class, you can say, which is provided by the Flutter block. It provides us a method to push the data from business logic to the UI. Okay, so Cubit has that power, we can say, which which allows to flow data from our business logic class to our UI. Okay, so and what is the observer? So observer is just observing the data which are flowing from the Cubit class or the controller class to our UI class. Okay, we have also a block class as an alternative of this Cubit. Okay, so what block does? So we have a more control over our data flow in the case of block, and because of that block, we have to write some extra code, or a little extra code you can say. But in the case of Cubit, it reduces that boilerplate code and it provides a straightforward function, or you can say methods, which you can use to trigger the data, and you can use to listen that data, or you can behave your UI according to that data. So this Bloc Observer observes everything. So we'll come to this observer in a few seconds or a minute. Okay, so this Bloc Provider. So what is a Bloc Provider? So provider, you can consider it as an container, okay, which holds all the Cubit classes. Okay, so Cubit is what? Cubit will be our a business logic class. Okay, so where we will put our all the logics, and where we can define which data to be emit to the UI, or which data to send to the UI. So all this will be take care into the Cubit. Okay, so we can consider Cubit as our controller class, and a provider is the container which takes the all controller, so that we can use that controller everywhere into the application. And what is this Bloc Builder? So Bloc Builder, so whenever there is a change happening into the data, so we have to listen that data, or we have to update the UI according to that data. Okay, so to listen to that updated data, we need a Bloc Builder. Okay, so with the help of Bloc Builder, we can listen to that data. Okay, So block listener, selector and consumer repository we will cover in a next video. So let's move to our code. So as you can see here, I have just created a small button and one is the counter. I have taken a text widget which display the data actually. So now why we are taking a counter example actually. So before moving to the project architecture, creating a project, we have to understand the core concept of this library actually. So as soon as we understand this terminology and how to use this classes and the methods, we can create a small application like we have created in our getx video. Okay, so just be with me, understand the logic, understand how to use these classes and the widgets of the builders, and then we will create a small application where we can get the data from the internet and we'll do some with that data. Okay, so as I have told you, we need a container to hold this business logic. Okay, so let's create this business logic class. So here I will create a package called state, and where I will create a counter state class. Okay, so let's create this counter state class. Okay, so now I have created a counter state class. I am extending it with the Cubit. Cubit is a generic class. Okay, so here what I am telling to this class with the Cubit of a type integer. So whatever the data which going to be flow from our controller to our UI will be in type of integer. Okay, so if we don't know we don't know the type of our data, so we can use the dynamic. Okay, or else if we have some other class, so we can use a custom class over here. Okay, by which we can tell the UI that we are going to receive a integer kind of a data. Okay, type of a data. So let's override the constructor. So now we have two options. One, we can take a initial value from outside, so we can use this method, or else we can omit this, or we can pass a default value 0. Okay, so we can now do this way. We have another method in which we can take a value from the external source, where we will create this counter state class. Okay, so we will come to that also in upcoming video, don't worry about that. Okay, now what we need next, so whenever we click on this button actually, so we need something to update this variable. Okay, so update this data, we need some event, or we need some event listener. Okay, so let me create a function. Okay, so I have created a function here called increment. Okay, which will emit a data. Okay, so here whenever user click on this button, the increment method will get called. Increment method will call the emit method from this Cubit, which takes a state as a variable, state as a data, or you can say which has a type of integer. So initially we have a default value 0, so it will add. So what we have did here, we are adding just +1 to this initial value 0. Okay, so it will emit, will emit the data by adding +1 to our UI. Okay, so now let's come to the UI part. Now we have this you can say we have this controller class of the Cubit class. Okay, now we need a container to hold this class. Okay, so now we will create a container to hold this class. So we have a block provider which will act as a container. Okay, so this takes a context, or we can pass this. counter state, and this block provider has a child where we can pass a home, okay, where we can pass over the initial screen, you can say, or the view. Okay, now with the help of block provider we have loaded our counter state, or we have loaded our qubit. Now I am adding this block provider to the root of the material apps, which means I can use this counter state variable or the events everywhere, anywhere into the our application. Okay, now if we have a multiple qubit class or multiple controller class, we can use multi-block provider. So we will use that in our next video. Okay, so now we have a qubit class or a controller class. We have created a container to hold that controller file or to load that controller file. Now next we have to trigger the event. So we need to trigger the increment event. Okay, so let's use that increment method. So to use that increment method, we have an read method from the context where we can define what type of data or a qubit we want to listen. So in our case we have an counter state, and inside the counter state we have an increment method. Okay, so whenever the user will press on this click button, from this counter state increment method will get called. Increment method will emit the data or will transfer the data to our UI by adding +1. So initial the data is 0 and +1, by adding the +1 it means we are updating the data. Okay, now we have emitted the data, we have triggered the event to emit that data. Now we need someone to listen that data. Okay, so we have a block builder for that. Okay, so block builder takes a context and state. State means our new value. Okay, so state means our new value. So this block builder, okay, so we have to tell this block builder to listen which controller file actually. So we may have in our large application, we may have a multiple files actually. Okay, so we can tell this block builder to listen a counter state controller which has a type of integer. Okay, so now this state or this variable will have a type, will be a type of now integer. So we can use this value to display the UI actually. So whenever there is a change, happening in this variable, okay, that will be listened by the builder. Okay, now we have an build when method also. Okay, that will come to this build when. So let me show you the result, what's happening actually here. So initial, as you have seen, we have here a text, another text. Now we are getting a value 0, which means we are getting this initial value as an 0. Okay, now whenever I click on this button, okay, this increment method will emit a new data. Okay, and this new data will be listened by this block builder, and this block builder will update this text widget with the new data. Okay, see, so as you are getting this log here, counter state changes. The previous state was the 2 and the new state or the next state was the 3. So we are getting this log. So from where we are getting this log? So we are getting this log from state observer. Okay, so I have created one class. I have extended this class with the Bloc Observer. This is also in one of the functionality of a block Flutter block. Okay, so what this class does actually, this class handles or to keeps the eye on the data. So whatever the data or whenever the data is flowing from the controller or flowing from the qubit to the UI, that that whole flow is managed or observed by this block observer. So whenever there is change happening into the data or any variable or any controller file, so that is getting listened by this onChange method. So you are getting this log from this onChange. Okay, so there is an on event, on error, and on transition. On event and on transition will work with the block, so we'll come to the block in the future also. So let me know into the comment, should I create the block or should I create a tutorial after this Cubit on a block? So let me know into the comment section. Okay, we have an on error. Okay, so in the counter, as we have used the image which is coming from this Cubit, okay, we have one more method actually. So this is an on error. So whenever we use this method or whenever we try to throw any error, so that error will be caught by this on error method. Okay, so this is a global observer. So this will work for every state or every Cubit class or controller class into your files. Okay, so this will be in a global. Okay, so I have here defined block observer equals to state observer. Okay, now this observer will act as a global observer. Okay, so now let's change it to emit. Okay, so now we have updated the UI and we are getting the new value with the block builder. Now we have another parameter is called block build when. Okay, so this actually returns us a previous state or data, you can say, or new state or new data, you can say. Okay, so here I am passing a true, I am returning a true. Okay, now let's observe the behavior of this block builder. Okay, so as the value is 0, if I click on the button, it will update the variable or it will update the UI. So now this build when is true, it means whenever the build when is true, the builder will update the text widget. Now if I add it to false, now if I assign a value or if I return the value false, okay, so now it will not update this counter variable, counter text widget. Now as you can see into the log, we are getting the value but we are not getting updated with the values, not getting updated on the UI, because this builder parameter works only when the build when returns a true. Okay, so now we can use this as a conditional builder also. We can build our text widget based on some condition. So let's say in this we can add a new state if greater than 10. If the value of the new state or the upcoming counter value or upcoming data value is greater than 10, then update to this widget, otherwise ignore the update. Okay, so let me refresh. So our current value is 5. Okay, now the value is 6, and as you can see the UI is not, the builder is not updating to text widget. 7, 8, 9, 10. Now as soon as the value is is greater than the 10 or matches to our condition, so build when returns true, and whenever the build when returns true, our builder will update the text widget. Cool. So we have just created a simple, or you can say, a counter application. So now why I am taking this counter example actually. So basically we have to understand first the core concept of this block. Okay, as we understand what block consumer does, what block selector listener, how to use this builder listener or selector actually. Once we understand this, or the core of this the builders or the block library, once we understand that, then we can create a small project as we have did into the getX state management video. Okay, so as soon as we complete with this tutorial series, we will create another I will create another video, you can say, or where I will create a small application by taking the by integrating the API or managing the state and all. So for today's video, that's it guys. So see you in the next video where I will explain how to use block listener. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Bye bye.